Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I have Kelly Cochran in the house. She is one of my favorite people. She is a beautiful light worker. I'm going to let her introduce herself to you. But just to give some framework around today's conversation, I like to call these conscious conversations. And inside of these conversations, I'm bringing together some of my most incredible light worker leader friends that are doing amazing things on the planet to help raise our consciousness. And I just want to share some conversations. This is something that I do on my off time with the people in my life all the time. And I talk about these beautiful people all the time. And I wanted to put it out there so that other people could engage in these conversations and be a part of them as well. Hello, Kelly. How are you doing today?
Hello, my friend. I am fabulous. Lovely to chat with you again and see your beautiful face all the way across the
Oh,
country.
yeah, it's beautiful to have you here too. And I love that you have a unicorn in the background. This is like
Oh, yes, it's
fun.
we're recording this on National Unicorn Day. I don't know if you knew that,
I
but
did it.
all of my followers have been texting me unicorn stuff all day because I have unicorns all over my office. And yeah, it's amazing.
So that's hysterical. So we're going to come back to that because I have a fun unicorn story, and I actually have a unicorn in my room too. I don't have it behind me, but that's super fun.
I love it.
So I would love if you would just share. Again, this is going out to my audience. It's also going out to my students that I teach the pursuit of happiness to. They're looking for some awesome content in this realm, and I'm going to share this with them as well. So I'd love for you to just give us the world of who you are and what you're doing on the planet, so we can kind of have some framework around what we're going to talk about today.
What I'm doing on this planet, always the ultimate question, right? I think that's the question that we all struggle with, especially throughout our heck 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that was the question I was struggling with a lot in my 20s and could not figure out why I was so unhappy and jumping jobs all the time because here all my friends I thought had it all figured out. They had great internships in college that melded perfectly into these big, high dollar jobs. Well, high dollar I thought at the time.
Mhm.
And they've always known they wanted to be a teacher or a stockbroker, or this, that, and the other. And I just didn't know what the heck I wanted to be when I grew up.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I was, oh gosh, 37, I think, that I finally kind of got the lightning bolt from the universe that said, you were put on this planet to do more. And that came in the form of me getting fired from not my first job, not my second job, my third job in corporate America that I had been rudely let go of.
Wow. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So, my background, I went to, like everyone does, excelled in high school to get into a good college, went to a good college to get a good, marketable degree. I remember telling my dad that I was going to study art history, and he told me basically the F you are, because he could not imagine me getting any job in art history that would pay any kind of money to support my lifestyle. So I ended up getting a degree in communications, which actually served me really well. I spent
Totally.
15 years in digital marketing in corporate America, and then got fired that third time and just heard so clearly this voice from the universe or God, whatever you want to call it, say, all right, when are you going to get it? Like, you're meant for more, start acting like it. And
Wow.
so that was kind of my wake up call. And so now I'm a high performance coach and a best-selling author and a speaker who just lives to empower loud, voiceful women. That is my job on this planet.
I love this so much. And I want to dig into this story more because one of the reasons I wanted to share and bring you on here is because I just love your story so much. It's one of those that's like I had what I call, and you and I've talked about this before, like I had a ditch moment. I had a couple of them, right? A dark,
Oh
difficult,
yeah.
challenging moment in my life in which I was brought down to my knees and I was in a ditch and I didn't know how to get out of it. And really the process in life is, what is the process you're going to put in place to get out of those, right? And how do we were chatting about this earlier, like how do we connect the dots backwards? Like where you are now sitting in front of us in your beautiful yellow sunshiny ray turtleneck, even though it's not sunshiny out in freaking San Diego right now, with your unicorn, like how did you get here from there, right? And so I just want to hear about that a little bit more. If you'd share with us like that major ditch moment that I could not believe when I was hearing the story, which I'm sure all the women that you tell the story to have this wow, okay, can't believe that happened. If you could just share that story, I would love to hear it.
Sure. So, yeah, what Natalie's referring to is there was a very pivotal project that I was put on in my last corporate America job. I was a project manager for a big company here in San Diego, and I was tasked with doing this $2 million website rebrand. And I was so excited. I felt being called up to the big leagues. And I really, I prepared my team. I prepared all night for this kickoff meeting. And this kickoff meeting had about 25 people in the room. There were graphic designers, the creative director was there, my VP was there, the CMO had come in to see, how I was going to get this project done because they had outsourced it. The outsourced team couldn't get it done. So here they were handing it off to me and giving me all this responsibility. And I'm going, oh yeah, my ego was just stoked. I was so excited that I was finally being seen as, this number one project manager on this team. So I was leading this kickoff meeting and I'm getting everybody amped up and getting the energy in the room up. And I'm at the whiteboard and I'm telling everybody how we're going to go about these next couple of weeks. And then all of a sudden, the creative director stands up and pushes back his chair from the table. And he walks up to the whiteboard and he says, enough. And you could hear a pin drop in this room. And he grabs a marker and points it at my chest. And he says, sit down, shut up, you're done talking.
Wow, that's crazy. I still get a painful feeling in my chest when you tell this story.
It's every time I tell it, I'm like, I can't believe that really happened to me.
I can't, but I was just thinking that line, like, how did this happen? And it wasn't even in like that long ago, right? It was like,
no, this was early 2017.
Yeah. So not
Yeah.
long ago.
It's taken me just about 3 years to not tear up when I tell the story anymore. Now it's just like, I've accepted it. But yeah, I went through all the phases of grief after that moment.
I can imagine. How long did you work there?
I had worked there. I had been leading the digital marketing team there for 18 months at that point.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it wasn't long after that they had a full shakeup in the department. I mean, that was the tip of the iceberg on how toxic that place had become. And then I ended up getting fired. And I just realized that I kept getting fired for the same reasons.
This is the thing I was just going to ask you, is like, what is
Yeah.
the pattern here? Because this has happened. Something like this has happened before, right?
Right.
So
right.
how do we connect the dots on the pattern? Yeah, I would love to hear that.
So it was fired by, it was always a man that was firing me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always because I was the voice for the people. I've always been really direct. I've always spoke my truth. I always defend people. I have a a very high sense of moral, right and wrong. My parents always laughed that I really should have been an attorney because I just have this really high sense of judicial purpose. And so, yeah, I stand up for what I believe is right. And it is very interesting that when you're a woman and you do that, especially in corporate America, you're seen as overstepping, as bossy, as bitchy, as hard to work with. Where I feel like if a man in that same role did the same things and was defending his team and standing up for what he believed in and pushing back against leadership, he would be seen as, oh, he actually has a lot of leadership potential.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I kept getting in trouble for these things. And so what ended up happening after I got fired was I went into this horrible depression for months because my ego was so tied up in what I did for a living. And I feel like as Americans, that always happens, right? The first thing we ask a new person is, oh, hi, what's your name? What do you do?
Sure. Yeah.
It's not who are you as a person? What are your hobbies? What are your interests? It's what do you do for a living?
Yeah.
And so once that rug was pulled out from under me, I didn't know who I was because my whole identity was tied up in me being a leader of this team, being this project manager. My intelligence was tied up in that job. I thought, if I was being promoted and seen as, high up in that position, then that meant I was intelligent, all these different things. And so when I got fired and basically told to sit down and shut up, it just completely destroyed my self-esteem. And so I basically, you and I have joked about this before, Natalie, I basically sat on my couch in my hoodie of depression, as I called it. It was this like gross zip up hoodie that I basically lived in for 30 days on
I have
my
a
couch.
depression cape. I don't wear
Yep.
it anymore. I'm not allowed to wear it anymore because I connect it with that. My friends started calling it my depression cape. You put this on whenever you're in a depressed space. Like, get this off,
Right.
get rid of it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Where's
exactly.
that cape? Where's your hoodie now? Did
Oh,
you
I still
burn it?
have it in the closet.
You
Yeah,
still have it. Will you burn that someday? You just keep
I
that as
should.
you
I
should
should
do that.
absolutely burn that
We should
someday.
actually do that with both of our items of
Yeah.
clothing, like next year or soon or something on a full moon. Just like burn the shit out of that stuff.
Oh my God. I love that idea.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's
Yeah.
that's
That depression hoodie, man, it'll get you. It'll get you because it gets real cozy. Gets real
oh
cozy in there. And then I was talking about this with you earlier too, in that, pushing a boulder. Let's say you have a 200-pound boulder in front of you and you start pushing and pushing and pushing. Those first pushes to break that inertia are the hardest. Once you have a stone that's rolling, it's a lot easier to get it to go faster and faster. So
yeah,
when you're stuck in this hoodie of depression for weeks and months at a time, taking those first steps off the couch to get in the shower and then make it outside and then maybe go for a walk and then go for a run. Like once you start getting in that habit of doing it, it gets so much easier. But man, those first steps
yeah,
off that couch or out of that depression are so brutally hard
yeah.
because you're just coming from this state of inertia and low self-esteem and scarcity mindset.
Yep, I totally hear you on that. And I think, I love that we can be so honest and real. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on too, was because, when you look at your marketing, I always tell you this, like, look at your marketing, look at your Instagram, you always have your ray of sunshine, yellow shirt, like just beautiful human inside and out that is just vibrating all this good energy that really makes you feel good when you see it. And I remember reaching out to you because you posted something very honest about, like, I had a state of depression and I was thinking about some really scary things, and this is kind of how I navigated through it. And it made you very real and authentic, which is what I love to see. And I would love to know, like, what were if you're open to share, what were like the thoughts, what were the ego-based, fear-based running replay that was causing you to sit in that for so long? Do you remember like what those lines were, or what were you beating yourself up about that was
I,
causing you to have like the low confidence?
I think it's when so our
And was that
identity,
the first time you were in that kind of a depression?
yeah, so that depression was actually pretty recently.
Hmm.
So yeah, I've struggled with depression on and off since I really started recognizing it in my early 20s. I had moved to Italy by myself after college graduation. And I was pretty isolated out there in the beginning. I mean, I made friends with my coworkers. I worked at a bank out there and made friends with my coworkers and had some Italian friends in the beginning. But I mean, it took a while to make, good friends in a foreign country where you're speaking a totally different language, where you weren't raised there, you're by yourself. And I just remember calling my mom one day and being like, I don't know, like it's beautiful out. I'm in my favorite country in the world. Like I kind of am making friends, but like I'm just so sad all the time. And
Yeah.
my mom's like, yeah, I think you might have some depression. And then of course turns out we do have that and it runs in the family. And so it can be chemical, it can be situational. Mine tends to definitely flare up situationally.
Sure.
So yeah, most recently I was going through some relationship changes. I had moved, and then of course this whole COVID thing happens. And so it was just this big, massive wave of change. And I'm usually someone who's really adaptable to change,
Hmm.
but it was like too much change at once.
Hmm.
And I just got in this loop in my head where I don't know. It was this out of body experience where I was just having, yeah, some really dark, scary thoughts that I never thought myself as. I see myself as someone who is pretty in control, and I've done a lot of self work over the years. So I feel like I have a pretty good handle on on my mood swings and emotions, thanks in part to drugs that I take for them, which I will be very honest about.
I appreciate you being so honest about it, because I wasn't going to ask, because we hadn't covered that before and I didn't know if I should. So you do take those, and how
Yep.
long have you been on them?
So I've been on antidepressants since it's probably been a little over a year now.
Mm.
I realized it was not this past summer, but the summer before, I was getting really ragey. Like, I mean,
Okay.
you could be standing in front of me in a grocery store line, and you could just be being a human, and you do something and it would set me off. And these were like perfect strangers that I would just want to like bash my cart into their cart. Like, it was so crazy. And I'm not like that. I love people. Like,
Mm.
people bring me energy. I'm 100% extrovert. And it just got to the point where like I would lash out at anybody or anything. And I'm like, this is not me. Where is this rage monster coming from? And so I finally went in to see a doctor, and she had me fill out these questionnaires on anxiety and depression. And she looked at the anxiety form first, and she said, you know, for the phase of life you're in, and you're building your own business and things, your anxiety is actually pretty normal for the level that you know, for the things that you're doing. But your depression, it was a 27 point was the max that you could score on this depression chart. And it asked you all these different questions about your sleep patterns, your anger, your sadness, your sex drive, all kinds of, your eating, all kinds of different stuff. I scored a 24 out of 27
Wow.
on this quiz. And she's like, your depression is off the charts. And it was all these things that I didn't realize were depression, because anytime I had noticed my depression in the past, it had been like, I can't get off the couch. It was like more of like an apathy energy, more of just a low energy, don't really care about it doing much. Everything seemed like way too hard to do. And this time I wasn't having that energy problem. It was more, I was channeling everything into this just burning anger all the time.
Yeah.
And not sleeping at all. So my insomnia, I was having like crazy manic highs,
Wow.
which is, you know, which is a problem because us as creators, we
Sure.
love those manic highs. And that's why a lot of people, yeah, with bipolar and manic depression hate getting on medication, because it levels out your highs. And those highs is where we can create really amazing stuff. But like, I was spinning up new businesses every morning at 4 a.m. and I was just all over the place. I was acting nuts. And I was like, dude, I don't care if these drugs bring the high down, because I need help, and I need to bring that anger up to a manageable level, and I need to bring these highs down so that I can sleep and be normal. And yeah, and so my what I'm on has been working amazingly. I was super lucky. The first drug I tried, fun times.
You found the right mix for you pretty quickly.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. And are you doing other, I'm sure you are, like, what is the spiritual practice too? So you've got like the mental health practice, and you're doing, I know you do yoga and stuff, so you're doing the physical. I think what I'd like to kind of highlight here is how you're using mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, and you're kind of combining all of those to now harness yourself or push yourself, propel yourself into what you're currently doing. So what were some of the practices you put in place?
So one of the things that really helped me get out of my depression after I got fired, and this was before I got on any medication, was I read a book called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. And I ended up, I actually have it sitting right here, because I've been teaching this
I heard some great things about this book.
oh my gosh, it's amazing. Yeah. So this is the book. It's called The Miracle Morning, the not so obvious secret guaranteed to transform your life before 8 a.m. So it was so crazy. After I had gotten fired, I got fired in May of 2017. I had gone out to Breckenridge, and we were visiting my boyfriend at the time's family. And I remember his mom asking me about like what I was going to do next, this new business I was spinning up, and all these things. And I just like, I was so monotone, just couldn't get excited about it. And that's when I really realized, oh, great. Like, I'm really depressed right now. I need help. And so I was looking for a book to read on my flight back from Denver. And God bless Amazon and God bless their algorithm, because it suggested The Miracle Morning. And I thought, well, I don't know if it's suggesting it. Maybe this is here for a reason. You know, I know you and I totally believe in universal signs and spiritual signs. And so I was like, obviously this book was served up to me for a reason. So I downloaded it, read it cover to cover on that flight back to San Diego. And then Hal offers this 30-day free challenge to start practicing what he calls his lifesavers. And
Wow.
so I completed the 30-day challenge, and that completely changed my life.
Wow.
And really quickly, what those rituals he practices, has you practice every morning are silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. Scribing is just another word for journaling or writing. And
Nice.
so I don't practice all 6 of them consistently every day anymore, but meditation every single morning, right when I wake up, I do a positive meditation.
Mm.
And then exercising every day and journaling every day. Those 3 have stayed super consistent for me.
That's beautiful. So thank you for sharing all those. So with your meditation, the positive meditation, what is that? Is it like guided? Or is it just you sorry guys for the noise.
So yeah, I like guided meditation. Sometimes I'll just do like Tibetan bowls too, or some kind of background noise. But in
Okay.
the morning, I really like doing guided meditations, and I love the app Insight Timer.
Okay.
It's totally free. They have like bonus things that you can pay for, but I just use the free app, and there are such beautiful guided meditations on there. You can do them by what subject you like to study. So if it's like stress relief, better sleep, better energy, anxiety relief, whatever. You can search by keywords. You can also say, I have 5 to 10 minutes, 10 to 20 minutes, and you can search by that too. So that's really cool.
I love that. Okay, good. So we have meditation, journaling, affirmations, exercise, reading. Those are the 5 things he
And
says.
then visualization. The
Visualization. Yeah.
6th.
And so those are the things that we talk about all the time too. So it's good to hear. It's
Yeah.
all, I always say, like, all the gurus and all the lands over thousands of years, when you talk about the pursuit of happiness, they all say the same things. That's why I
Yeah.
came up with like the 10 principles of happiness. It's all the same stuff. And it's exactly like what you're saying, right? Be in the moment, be grateful, you know, and
Yes.
all these things. So okay, so that's beautiful. So you kind of shared with us your ditch moment, and will you just share with us now, so we can have an insight of like how we can connect your dots backwards and see, where you are now, and kind of how that all led you to your successful moment now.
Yeah. So it's really interesting, when you go through something like getting fired or anything traumatic, like I'd been divorced, if you lose someone, any kind of breakup, anything that seems like a traumatic ending,
Hmm.
it hurts so bad at the time, and it's so hard to have perspective when you're in it,
Yeah,
right?
totally. Oh my
And
God.
I think that's why it took so long for me to get out of that depression after I got fired that last time. But the law of duality, you can't stay in that depression forever. There
Right.
has to be a positive outcome from it. And
Mhm.
so it's like life is constantly a roller coaster. So I think you just have to stay really focused on, this is only a moment in time. It will get better, even
Mhm.
though it's so hard to say that to yourself. And people tell you that when you're in this moment, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh, shut up, Deborah, you don't know what you're talking about. You've never been hurt like I've been hurt. But everybody has their traumas. And I think everything, I mean, to sound like a total platitude, everything does happen for a reason. And
Yeah.
those 3 times I got fired, it's like the universe every time was like, hey, kid, you're not supposed to be doing this. You're built for something bigger. But I wouldn't listen because I had been so conditioned
Sure.
to get a good corporate job and climb the corporate ladder. And that's all I had in my head, was the only way to make 6 figures was for someone else to provide the paycheck and to
Yeah.
climb the ladder and to be a director and then a VP and then whatever, a C-suite. And that was the only way to succeed in life.
Yeah.
And so I kept trying to fit into that round hole. But here I am, this, very square, very loud, very bright, shiny yellow peg.
Yeah.
And corporate America kept saying, you don't fit here.
Yeah. And you
Stop
didn't.
trying. And I didn't, but I wasn't listening. And that 3rd time I heard so clearly on my drive home with my cardboard box in the trunk with all of my, cubicle decorations, just bawling my eyes out. I heard a voice say, do you get it now?
Do you get it now? I
And
love.
I'm like, holy shit,
Yeah. Isn't it
I'm made for
fun?
more.
It's beautiful when we hear those, and we actually listen, and because you've probably done the meditation, you've done the work, you can hear it more clearly. You don't think you're crazy. Like, you just take it. You take what we call, like in the spiritual world, like you have the download, you get the channel
Yep.
message, and you're like, cool, I got it. Like, that's what it sounds like in my head. Cool. Got it. Thank you. I got it. I got it.
Exactly. That's exactly. And it wasn't like, oh, okay, I get it now. I know exactly what to do. It was like, okay, I get it now. Now what?
Now
And the
what? Yeah.
universe is just like, oh no, you have to figure that out. And I'm like, thanks a lot. Like, that's helpful.
Yeah. And then sometimes I think when you hear those voices and you don't get the, like, you're like, now what? And you don't have that answer either. You have to kind of, I talk about being on like a steady, like a tightrope, right? And you just got to stay steady and put one foot in front of the other, which is what we really need to do every day, certainly right now in this moment. But just like, okay, I'm on this tightrope, and if I can just stay focused on forward movement and one step at a time and staying really stable and clear, then I can keep moving forward. And it's really all about the one step at a time. I think certainly in those coming out of, or popping out of the ditch moments, and taking that hoodie off and hearing those messages, and just trusting that you'll keep getting more signs and, guidance.
Oh, I love that metaphor. I just so clearly am picturing, like, if you were walking a tightrope between two mountains, but there's
Yes.
mist, and
Yes.
there's mist covering the mountain you're going towards, but because you looked at the map, that there's definitely a mountain on the other side.
Sure.
You just have to have faith that the mist will lift and
Yes.
reveal your destination.
That's right.
Got it. That's so
It's
powerful.
beautiful. You and I have
love
similar metaphors. I use the tightrope metaphor all the time, and it's what I picture in my head in those moments. I mean, I had a moment in 2019 that was similar to which is what called me to that post I mentioned earlier. Similar, and I knew, because I had been there before. It was worse than any moment I had been in before, but I knew, because I had stacked enough of those moments at 36. Okay, you will get out of this. It is just another ditch moment. What's your process? How do you get back up on the tightrope? How do you take one step at a time? And I imagined, I was chatting with another friend yesterday, and I was using this tightrope, and I always imagine, like, those things in Little Mermaid, like Ursula's minions, those little things that are like,
Oh yeah, the eels.
the eels. Yeah. I always imagine, like, on my tightrope, that my limiting beliefs and my stuck points and my triggers and my patterns are all those low vibration, fear-based eels that are like trying to pull
Yes.
me off the tightrope. And I just have to, like, kick them, or just, like, just stay steady, not kick them, but like stay steady in my vision. And so it sounds like that's kind of what you did. So what are you doing now? Tell us, before we wrap up, like, what does your life look like now?
Well, so actually, I just had another download right at the end of March. So we're recording this right during quarantine, which is just interesting.
Mhm.
Universal reset for everyone.
Totally.
Whether you were ready for it or not, it's
Totally.
here.
Yeah.
And I was standing at my kitchen counter, and I had this download that said, "You're being called up." And I was like, whoa, okay, whatever that means. And again, they never say how. The universe never tells you how. It's just like, all right, kid, you're up. And it's like, I called you up to bat, go swing. And I'm like, what am I swinging at? It's like, you'll figure it out. And so I just, I got kind of quiet with it, meditated, sat with it for a few days. And then I came up with, I needed to do this 30-day master your mindset challenge for my followers.
Yeah, I saw
And
that.
so I kicked it off. This was literally, I came up with the idea 2 days before April 1st. I'm like, okay, April has 30 days in it. Let's do a 30-day challenge. I'm going to break it out into 4 different weeks. We're going to talk about mastering your thoughts, your habits, your actions, your reactions. This is what people need right now. It's totally free content. And I think to really answer your question is, how do you keep moving on that tightrope? You stop focusing inward, because all of our fear of uncertainty is egocentric. It's focused on ourselves. Excuse me. And I think how you get out of that fear and how you take imperfect action is you focus on what you can do for other people. So you turn your focus from inward to outward. And that's what I did. I was kind of freaking out, like, all these people are losing their jobs right now. And oh my God, like, how can I help? But I still need to pay my bills. So, I'm still trying to get new clients. And I'm like, you know what? Let's not think about me for a second. What do other people need that I can provide right now? And once I put that lens on it, it got super fun. I got creative with it. I've been having a blast posting live Facebook videos every single day this month, like creating really fun challenges for people. And my fear totally went away because I stopped thinking about myself, and now I'm totally focused on what I'm doing for other people.
Yep, I love that you said that. That's one of my steps in my process when I am in a depressed state. One of the first things that I do now is I reach out to take it off myself. And then I will send a text to all of my clients. I'll send text to certain students that I know might need support, and it instantly takes the onus off, the focus off myself, and whatever wacky thing I'm worried about, puts it on someone else, and you're giving back. It's one of the principles of happiness that I talk about. I love that you just said that. And that was what brought us together on these two calls, was your Master Your Mindset. I think that's what caused me to reach out, say like, I'd love to have you. And you were like, I'd love to have you. And it was like this whole beautiful thing. So, so where can we find you? And tell us just a quick snippet, like about the book. We didn't talk about the book that's bestseller.
Oh, yes. I have that right here too.
I love
So
this.
I am the author of a book called Loud, Silence Your Critics and Turn Up the Volume on Your Life. So
Love
just
it.
very quickly, why I started writing this, I started writing 2 different marketing books because I've been in marketing forever, and everybody's saying, oh, you need a book as, part of your funnel and da 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 da. So oh gosh, I had probably 40,000 words written in these 2 different marketing books. And
Wow.
I was just bored to tears writing them. I was having so much resistance. And then I ended up meeting this fabulous person named Azul Tarones, who has coached Pat Flynn through a couple of his books.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so we sat down for coffee, and he's like, okay, tell me what you've been trying to write. And I'm talking about this marketing book, just like, I sounded like, the teacher on the Peanuts. I was just like, I don't even know why I'm telling you this. And he's like, okay, yeah, that sounds great. But like, tell me about you. Who are you? And I went on this like hour-long rant about how I am so tired of loud, boisterous, forceful women being, put
I
down and shut up and silenced and all this stuff. And he goes, okay, so you have a brand called Loud Blonde. Do you want to be known for being Kelly the marketer, or Kelly the leader of this movement of loud, direct, powerful women? And I was like, well, that obviously. He goes, okay, that's the book you need to write. And of
love
course, there was no how. Here's how you do it. I was like, well, I don't know how to do that. He's like, we'll figure that out. But that's, it struck me. It was like this full body yes, that I
Yeah.
was like, oh, this
Beautiful.
is stepping into who I'm supposed to be, and this journey I'm supposed to be going on, and this tribe I'm supposed to be leading. So the book is part really funny memoir and part self-help. And it just talks about my journey from, I have stories in there from when I was 6 through college, through early adulthood, just, steps and missteps and all my learnings of
Love it.
being a loud woman in a society that doesn't really want us to shine. So yeah, it's really fun. And people can download the first 3 chapters for free at loudblonde.com/book. And then you can follow me on Instagram at loudblonde.
Highly recommend the follow, guys. She's always brightening up my feed.
Thank you.
Well, do you have any last thoughts? I like to give people a heads up before I ask that question, because it is kind of a big question, but we didn't do that. So I can imagine you have a final thought though. What would you
I
love?
do have a final thought. I'm just thinking, one of the best podcasts I ever listened to, and I wish I could give credit to who said this because I do not remember who it was, but so clearly when I was writing my book, I was having so much resistance, as happens when we create anything.
Yeah.
And I remember listening to this podcast, and this woman said she was refusing to launch her podcast because she was always a straight A student, and she was having a really hard time with getting over perfectionism. So she wasn't launching her podcast because she wanted every episode to be perfect. She wanted her intro and outro to be perfect. She wanted the right music, the right graphics, blah, blah, blah. And I feel like so often we have a failure to launch because we use all those little details as excuses, as barriers to action.
Yeah.
And so I want to say that taking imperfect action is the best way for you to get over your fear, and for you to take it from being egocentric to others centric. And so just think that your B minus work may be the exact A plus work someone else needed in their life.
I love that so much. I had a feeling that you were going to say the imperfect thing, because imperfect action is kind of one of your things. I feel like
Yep.
I hear you say that a lot, and that is resonates so much with me because of course I do this as well. And I had to learn the hard way. You know, when you start a business in the food and beverage industry, which is where I started, and I knew nothing and had no team and no money, you learn really quickly that you can't be a perfectionist. You just
Oh
can't
yeah.
do it. There's no way you'll ever do anything if you're a perfectionist. So I learned imperfect action, but did not use that term for it, which I will now, thanks to you. I just said, I'm cool. I used to say, like, don't worry, I'm cool to put out some mediocre work every now and then. that's, how, that's how I would say it. And I would laugh and kind of diminish myself a little bit, because exactly like what you're saying, the B plus work, it wasn't mediocre, it was B plus work. And it actually got the thing rolling. Right.
Exactly.
So I think that's a beautiful message to close out with. I love you. I think you're amazing. Thank you for your time and energy today. I guess that's it for us today, and we'll come back with the next conscious conversation. Have a beautiful day, Kelly.
Thank you so much. Love you guys. Have a good one.
Bye.